In September 1835, 26-year-old naturalist Charles Darwin stepped ashore in the Galapagos aboard HMS Beagle. The ship was on a global voyage from December 27, 1831 to October 2, 1836, under Captain Robert Fitzroy, tasked with charting coasts and collecting natural history. Darwin landed on islands such as San Cristobal and Isabela, kept meticulous journals, and began systematically collecting specimens, finches, tortoises, and mockingbirds. The expedition's official purpose combined hydrographic surveying with scientific observation, and Darwin's role was to catalog geology, fauna, and flora. At the time, most naturalists accepted species as fixed, following William Paley's natural theology, so any variation between islands would be intellectually explosive. In September 1835, during his first landings on islands like San Cristobal and Isabela, Darwin stepped out onto arid lava fields and into verdant highlands. He encountered giant tortoises and mockingbirds whose appearances changed from island to island. He carefully recorded differences in tortoise shell shape, high-saddled versus domed, and noted variations in the mockingbird's beaks and plumage, realizing specimens from the same archipelago were not interchangeable. Subscribe. Maybe it would have helped him keep track of every tortoise. Darwin packed skins, bones, seeds, and even live tortoises into labeled crates for shipment aboard HMS Beagle, and he wrote detailed journal entries and letters to his Cambridge mentor John Stevens Henslow, turning anecdote into archival data. His field notebooks filled with precise locality labels, specimen numbers, and comparative sketches. What began as natural curiosity hardened into a documented puzzle. Similar-looking animals, reliably different by island, implying a pattern that demanded explanation. In September 1835, as Darwin moved between the Galapagos Islands of San Cristobal and Isabela, patterns began to emerge that sharpened his questions. He noticed that beak shapes among small passerines varied with diet: stout, crushing bills for seeds, slender, probing bills for insects and cactus flowers. The giant tortoises showed matching differences: saddle-backed shells and long necks on dry, low islands where cactus was the main food, and broad-domed shells with short necks in the lush highlands where low grasses prevailed. Mockingbirds differed in bill length, plumage, and behavior from island to island, and Darwin labeled and compared specimens with meticulous locality tags. Geology added a time dimension. The archipelago declared itself volcanic and sequential, and Lyell's Principles of Geology, published in 1830-33, gave Darwin a framework for gradual change over deep time rather than instant creations. These aligned clues, morphology, ecology, and stratigraphy, moved him from curiosity to a coherent problem that demanded explanation. When the Beagle returned to England on October 2, 1836, specialists examined Darwin's Galapagos collections. In 1837, the ornithologist John Gould told Darwin that the birds Darwin had assumed were merely variants were actually distinct species endemic to particular islands, and that several of them were finches. That uncompromising verdict turned Darwin's curiosity into a real taxonomic problem. In 1838, Darwin read Thomas Malthus's essay on the Principle of Population, 1798, and recognized that populations tend to grow faster than resources, a stark arithmetic that implied a perpetual struggle for existence. Gould's species-level identifications, combined with Malthusian competition, supplied a mechanism: differential survival and reproduction among variant individuals. By 1838, Darwin was already sketching the idea of descent with modification driven by natural selection in his notebooks, a decisive intellectual crucible that would harden into the theory he published in 1859. After 2 decades of notes, correspondence, and experiments, Darwin was finally pushed to finish when Alfred Russel Wallace independently sent an essay in 1858. Their findings were presented jointly to the Linnean Society on July 1, 1858, and that prompted Darwin to act. On November 24, 1859, he published On the Origin of Species in London, explicitly marshalling his Galapagos observations, the tortoises, mockingbirds, and the variations in finches he noted in September 1835 as cornerstone evidence. The book turned Beagle-era sketches and conjectures into a rigorously argued theory of descent, with modification through natural selection, solved the central puzzle of species change, and ignited an epical public and scientific debate. Darwin's observations during the Beagle voyage in the Galapagos became emblematic evidence that reshaped biology and launched the science of evolution. Around 1900, Gregor Mendel's work was rediscovered, and by the mid-20th century, the modern synthesis fused genetics with natural selection, deepening Darwin's insights. Conservation efforts now protect the archipelago, including the founding of the Charles Darwin Foundation in 1959 and active island restoration and invasive species eradication. That legacy both validates and complicates a once dominant theory, and it leaves us with a pressing question: how will we steward evolution's fragile laboratory?